Distinguished members of the Joint Legislative, Fiscal, and Education Committees, thank you for the opportunity to address you on behalf of the Yonkers City School District. I am Dr. Edwin Quesada, Interim Superintendent of Schools, here to advocate for the 27,000 students who on a daily basis seek the American dream, and to explain why investing in the Yonkers Public Schools is a prudent use of state tax dollars. Also with me in the audience are the Finance Commissioner for the City of Yonkers, Mr. John Lasuski, and the Budget Director, Mr. Andy Lenny. Together, we are a dynamic team who seeks opportunity for each and every one of our students. I have entered my testimony into evidence, and I will only give you a synopsis of what I have written for you. It is our joint responsibility to provide each child an education that will enable them an opportunity to attain their dreams and become productive citizens. Yonkers Board of Education trustees, the mayor and city council have embraced a common goal, committed to an educational agenda that supports the needs of children who attend school in urban center and who continue to lack a sound basic education. The Yonkers Public Schools are experiencing significant success. Much of the success was accomplished working with our mayor, city and state delegations, and the governor, garnering valuable resources for our children. So why invest more in Yonkers children? Because our school district continually improves student outcomes. Just look at the state data. On January 11th, the State Education Department released the 2015 graduation rates, and once again, Yonkers Public Schools graduation rate is up. The June 2015 graduation rate is up 5% from last year to 74%. And for August, the gain is 2%, with 78% of the class of 2015 graduating on time, the highest of all the Big Five school districts. Yonkers Public School made gains in the 2015 English Language Arts and Mathematics assessment over the 3 years of the new Common Core standards. And this year, I'm expecting growth in each and every one of our underperforming schools. Our enrollment grows every year by almost 300 students. This trend is predicted to continue. As of yesterday, Yonkers is educating 27,784 students. 400 students with disabilities are in out-of-district placement, which I would love to bring them all back. 618 students in a charter school, and 26,766 students are in our public schools. As you can see, our commitment to education has not wavered. Enrollment is increasing, more families are staying in our city, teachers remain committed to our students' education, students achieve high levels and graduate on time. Community schools and partnerships flourish in every school. We work with local health, medical, and post-secondary institutions to provide comprehensive academic, social, and health services for students and family members that will result in improved educational outcomes for our children. And the successful implementation of the 2014 intermunicipal agreement between the City of Yonkers and the Board of Education is a model approach to share services in municipalities facing financial challenges. Now that I have captured your attention with Yonkers' successes, let me share our challenges. Yonkers children are educated in crumbling infrastructure. The average age of our school building is over 75 years. These schools are at or over their capacity and cannot accommodate current technology or required additional instructional space for our growing enrollment and increasing need for in-district space for students with disabilities and English language learners. Out of necessity, due to limited funding and staff, our annual capital improvement plan is actually done as triage, prioritizing projects based on health and safety and building integrity needs. Yonkers is further constrained by the 70% state reimbursement on approved construction projects. This can be remedied by city's proposed legislation for the reconstruction of Yonkers schools. The Yonkers community supports this legislation and will vigorously lobby for its adoption. The challenges facing the Yonkers City School District in 2016 and beyond is to meet its lawful responsibility to provide educationally sound instructional program that addresses the needs of Yonkers students and the community. Too many years have gone by, and too many Yonkers students have not had the benefit of an appropriate public education. The majority of our schools do not have a guidance counselor, a school psychologist, or a social worker. Let me share our student-teacher ratios. Guidance counselors, 787 students to 1. Psychologists, 1,150 students to 1. Social workers, 2,231 students to 1. As you can see, these are not services that we're really providing. Again, we only addressing small issues with that limited support that we have in our school. Our elementary school are void of extracurricular activities or sports. Music and art are limited to a day or less a week. And our student-teacher ratio for library media specialists is 3,347 students to 1. But Yonkers is determined to turn these challenges into real opportunities for our students. I ask that you recognize our challenges, celebrate our successes, and commit to expanding opportunities for Yonkers children. Help us move towards compliance and provide opportunities for our students. Please consider increasing the Foundation Aid formula to recognize growing enrollment, both at Vets Day and throughout the year, thereby providing Yonkers essential recurring revenues to support our increasing number of students with disabilities, and English language learners. Please understand that the executive budget leaves my school district with a $7 million gap for a status quo budget. Based on what you heard, a status quo budget is not what we need in Yonkers. Restoring the total amount of our gap elimination adjustment this year, providing full funding and reimbursement for our career and technical education programs, which has remained stagnant for years and does not recognize program sequencing that begins in 9th grade. I thank the committee for all the energy that you have around career and technical education, and I invite you to come to Saunders Trace and Technical High School in Yonkers, the oldest Trace and Technical High School and the best Trace and Technical High School in the state. So please come and see us. Recognizing that pupil support services, art, music, and sports are not extras. These are essential components of a sound basic education. Increasing funding for community schools statewide to enable districts to properly implement mandated instructional improvements. The executive put in $100 million for community school. Yonkers will get about $4.4 million. Community school will require a lot more funding, as my colleagues have indicated already. Providing adequate funding to support professional development aligned to state mandates. We are in the middle of changes again. These changes will not become a reality unless the proper professional development is provided for administrators and teachers. They are responsible for educating our students. Let's provide them with the tools essential for making that happen. Finally, I encourage each of you to visit Yonkers and see firsthand the appalling conditions of so many of our schools. I am confident that your visit will convince you to support the city school reconstruction legislation, and as you have with other cities across the state, become an active participant creating jobs and quality schools to improve the entire Yonkers community. The Yonkers Board of Education trustees, the mayor and city council, parents, student teachers, administrators, civil service, employees, and I are committed to the education of all of our children. I leave you with one last number. For us to begin to move towards compliance, we have a budget deficit gap of about $24 million. Let us not allow that to continue in Yonkers anymore. Our children are succeeding. Our city is doing what's right for our children. Our teachers and administrators are taking care of our youngsters and providing a good education. Let us provide them with the funding needed for making this happen. I ask you to also commit to our diverse, growing, and vibrant community. It is Yonkers time. Give our children what they deserve. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, honorable members. Let me introduce myself very quickly. I see my colleagues have left me 2 minutes, so I will try to keep my remarks to that. My name is Linda Simas. I have been in Rochester as the interim superintendent for 7 days now. So, however, I am not a stranger to the Big Five. I spent 22 years in Syracuse. I did my teaching there, was a principal elementary, middle, and high school there. And just last year, I worked in an interim manner in Buffalo. So, and then I spent 16 years in the Williamsville School Districts as assistant superintendent. So, although I'm brand new to Rochester, I am not new to Big Five and urban education. My early assessment is that the Rochester schools are taking many of the right steps toward improving outcomes for students. 95% of Rochester 4-year-olds are enrolled in our universal pre-K program, nearly all of whom attend full-day classes. On January 4th, we began serving 650 3-year-olds thanks to the pre-K expansion grant. With the help from Governor Cuomo's new initiative on pre-K at age 3, we hope soon to offer full-day programs to every 3- and 4-year-old in Rochester. Once again, we continue to work on attendance improvement. The focus of the schools district for this past year has been reducing the number of chronically absent students in elementary schools. And last year, 1,100 students improved their attendance as a result of this initiative. Rochester's graduation rates, although still way too low, are also improving. The 5-year rate of 58% in 2015 was the highest in 6 years, and performance by students with disabilities has increased steadily over the past 4 years. From a financial perspective, Rochester has reduced its structural budget gap by more than 25% over the past 4 years. While doing so, the district has invested more in students while improving financial stability. We intend to continue on that path into the 2016-17 budget. However, we do project a budget challenge of nearly $42 million next year. There are specific areas in which we would like to request more help, and without being repetitive, I will echo many of the sentiments of my colleagues who have just testified, and you have more detailed remarks in the written testimony, but I would like to highlight 3 areas that I'd like to particularly mention now. One is the receivership schools. All 14 of Rochester's receivership schools have improvement plans in place. Compliance deadlines have been met. Our 4 persistently struggling schools have used receivership aid to fund the staff and support they need to meet improvement targets. However, Rochester's 10 struggling schools, the ones with 2 years to meet the improvement targets, have similar needs, and therefore we respectfully request receivership aid for those struggling schools for 2016-17, perhaps using the formula that supported our persistently struggling schools budget this current year. Our second request is for a pilot project to provide universal transportation for our elementary and K-8 students for next year. Fewer than 20% of these students currently attend their neighborhood school, and we believe transportation is the major reason why, according to parents who have told us so. We intend to request a grant to fund transportation for Rochester schools to their neighborhood schools. This will support the Safe Neighborhoods objective of the Rochester Monroe Anti-Poverty Initiative. We also believe it will reduce transportation costs in the long run through more efficient routing. Finally, we ask for $2 million to maintain school nursing services. Our nurses play an exceptionally valuable role in helping our Rochester students stay healthy, and the demand for their services, as you are well aware, is increasing. We deeply appreciate your past support to this initiative and hope the legislature will continue to help us maintain nursing services at the current level. With that, once again, in knowing that I could repeat the remarks of my colleagues, I will not, but I thank you for your time and your consideration of our requests.
Right. Let me thank you for coming. I apologize I had run out for a minute. I look forward to getting to know each and every one of you a little better. We've obviously had some turnover in these spots, and you have very challenging assignments, and we want our committee to be there for you. I know you meet primarily with your delegations, but we hope that we can make the time to do that. I particularly want to extend my best regard to Dan Lowengarten, who of course served in Syracuse for so many years, and you know, I really feel very terribly that he would be taken ill, and it just is, take good care of yourselves because you're in very high-pressured positions. So we look forward to that. I certainly have told Shelley and Gary Pretlow I want to see that school in Yonkers because it's easy for me to get to from Queens, and we keep saying we're going to do it, and it just somehow we're up here for 12-hour hearings, and so we don't get there. But I look forward to it, and of course, I get to Syracuse all the time to see my mom, so I hope that I'll be up there to see the superintendent again soon. Thank you very much. Thanks.
And thank you. I'd like to echo what the Assemblywoman said. On behalf of the Senate, we welcome you to Albany. Sorry for the delay. We appreciate all the great things that you do for the children in your districts. You've had 7 successful days now as a new superintendent, and I'm sure there will be many more. And as a fellow Western New Yorker, I want to give a shout out to Dr. Cash. I'm glad that you spent time in Massachusetts so that you could get used to some of the colder weather after coming from the south. But congratulations to you too, and look forward to working with all of you. Thank you.
Kathy Young meant to say, thank goodness you studied in Massachusetts, a Democratic state. That's what she really meant to say.
The time is late, but it's not that late. We're not there. Okay, so I don't think we have any questions. No questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Senator Montgomery wanted to ask a question. Sorry.
I don't have a question. I just wanted to say specifically to Dr. Cash, we were very fortunate that we now have Dr. Crew back. So, and you were with a masterful educator, so I trust you're doing wonderful for Buffalo. Sorry we don't have you in Brooklyn.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we will hear from the Council of School Supervisors and Administrators, CSA, Ernest Logan, President.
Welcome. We look forward to your voice. It's always a voice of a lot of wisdom, so we're glad you.
Good evening, good afternoon, late afternoon. I provided my testimony. I just want to highlight a few things, and I want to welcome Senator Young. Thank you and congratulations on this new opportunity here.
Thank you very much.
I'm sorry that my fellow supervisor was not able to continue to join us, Senator Marcelino, who's a former member of CSA, is a school supervisor. But I'm going to be brief. You have my testimony, and there are a couple of things I want to highlight for you. You've heard a lot of what is going on, and we are in support of what has been said. On mayoral control, I just need to tell you this. I think it's at a point now that we start to remove this from the political realm. And it really doesn't matter who the mayor is, but we need to decide that this is what we need to do in the way of governance. And if we're not willing to really extend it and make it work, then we need to, out of this August body here, to create a task force to decide what we're going to do about governance in New York City. Because I don't think we can continue to hold our children as a political football. Continuity is key to be able to making educational changes. And we saw this as we came together, the chancellor, the mayor, the teachers, the UFT, and CSA, to really work on what we call our renewal schools. We would not be able to do that if we didn't believe that there was something long-term of what we were planning. These are not one-shot fixes. The other thing that I would like to point out, you've heard some of this today from the commissioners and others, about professional development for teachers, but also for supervisors. Historically, CSA has done professional development, and with the help of the legislature the last couple of years, we've been able to get funding for the Educational Leadership Institute, where we're able to provide mentoring and coaching for school leaders, principals and assistant principals. And this became critical for us because we were able to then not just do it for brand new people, but people who were in service as things changed, to be able to get them to get up on what needed to happen. And yes, We believe that we need to do full funding for the Campaign for Fiscal Equity. We need to get away from this with this gap elimination. We just need to get past all of that. Now I'm going to touch on something that's very controversial, and most people seem to have a problem with it, but I need to tell you this. The core value of what we looked at, myself and at CSA, is what's best for kids. And so we represent a group of unionized charter schools. And these were Board of Ed schools where people, community people, decided they wanted to try something different. And so instead of it being a place where we could really look at the innovations they've done and been a real incubator for what's happening, people have thrown them into this pot, a political pot, that's not about what's best for children. And so what we've looked at is that there are legacy issues that they have because they are unionized. So they're having a major issue in regard to how they do their funding. How do they pay for their pensions? How do they pay for their health costs? How do they pay for the buildings that they're in? And so we're asking this committee, if you read what we've talked about here, is that we really would like you to look at the legacy costs of conversion charter schools, and we are proposing something a little different. Now, some of my colleagues say, why do you say anything good about charter schools?
There are 6 of them, right? I just want to, Ernest, there are
Pardon
6.
me? There are six of
So
them,
it's
yeah.
only 6. We're only talking
Only
about
6.
Yeah.
And we're really looking at, if we were to do the legacy course for these schools, we pull out the rest of this and just see to it that they're able to continue to exist because they're doing good work in the community. And my final piece that I'd like to talk about is that we have been very supportive of community schools, but I want everyone to understand here that community schools is not a school improvement model. It's a supplement to what needs to happen in these schools. And I don't want people to think that because we bring in CBOs and bring in health centers and improve this thing about attendance, that that's going to turn the academics around in these schools. The only way these schools improve is when you get quality school leaders and quality teachers. And we were in New York City because we wanted to make this right, did some things to allow this chancellor to get the leadership she needed in these schools to be able to have the right people at the helm. And the issues that we've had on along is that principals should have the discretion to do what's best at their building because that's the person you hired to do that work. And so if there are any questions, I'll take them, but I know it was a long day.
It is still a long day.
I just always want to thank you. I stay no matter how late so I can hear you, Ernest, even though I have to at some point to get that train back because of the snow. I wasn't able to drive this week and stay as late as I can. But I really appreciate the wisdom we always get from you personally and from the people you represent and your team up here, of which we work so closely with all the men and women who represent you up here, and we appreciate it very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Senator Kruger?
And also, thank you. When I go on record, and while the UFT and NICET might have left, I don't think they disagree. We know from our communities, when you have great principals in your schools, they make them great schools, and they work with their teachers and the families to make sure that happens. So people like to joke about setting you off against each other and the dark side or the light side, but again, I don't think there's one legislator who doesn't recognize you get the right principals in the schools and you back them up, and you will be happy with the outcomes. So
I appreciate that, Senator, because that absolutely is true, and we've shown that does happen. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and you have great energy considering the length of the day, so thank you for that, too.
Thank you, yes. School Administrators Association of New York State, SANI's, Jim Viola, Director of Government Relations. Yes, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chairpersons Farrell, Young, and Nolan, and honorable members of the New York State Legislature. My name is Jim Viola. I am the Director of Government Relations for the School Administrators Association of New York State, and we're grateful for this opportunity to present testimony in regard to the governor's proposed executive budget. I'm not going to go into great detail on the budgetary aspects of our paper. You all have that before you, and you'll find that many of our recommendations are on the same page as those from the State Education Department and from NYSET. To wit, we recommend an increase in state aid to schools of at least $2.2 billion, that we completely do away with the GEA and make meaningful progress in terms of foundation aid, that we address an anomalously low property tax cap for this year, which is the equivalent of losing $308 million from school districts outside of the Big Five, and to make sure that every school district in New York State gets a fair and realistic additional allocation of state aid, recognizing that under the current budget proposed by the governor, some school districts will sustain a cut in state aid for next year. The balance of my presentation is going to be focused on programmatic types of issues, starting with annual professional performance reviews. First of all, we appreciate the efforts and actions taken by the Governor's Common Core Task Force and the recommendations that accrued from the task force. We also appreciate the timely action on the part of the Board of Regents in putting regulations in place to implement Recommendation 21. But when the former leadership of the State Education Department was putting their education reform agenda in place, they many times described it as building an airplane while flying it. In some ways, you know what we're still doing is exactly that. The actions of the Common Core Task Force, the regulatory changes, are an imperfect patch, not a fix, of our APPR system. We're glad to hear that the new commissioner and her leadership team is already pursuing improvements in the Common Core aligned tests for grades 3 to 8. That's great. We're hopeful that they're also considering alternative ways to do the state-developed growth score. There are other aspects, though, of 3012D and regulations that need to be reviewed and probably adjusted. Things such as the matrix, looking at student performance and observation. Are these the right factors keeping in place, knowing the additional flexibility that we now have under ESSA? Is a 50-50 weighting of those things the right weighting of those things? Because all of that remains in place still today. In terms of the independent evaluator requirements, is the additional administrative burden, the additional costs, and the information that accrues from those observations, is the juice worth the squeeze? And so what we're saying is this: we encourage the governor's office, members of the state legislature and the state education department to continue engaging appropriate entities so that together we can continue to make changes that are necessary in statute and regulation so that the next time we fly the APPR plane, it'll be in a plane that's actually airworthy. The next thing I'd like to discuss is failing and persistently failing schools. The recommendations and requirements and targets set for those schools that are basically all in 17 fiscally strapped school districts is like driving the Indy 500 in an old car that doesn't have enough gas. All of these 17 school districts, none of them get their full allocation under foundation aid, and they should be prioritized for that purpose. They're in the rears by $2.7 billion right now. The $75 million that was set aside in 2015 for the persistently failing schools, it was supposed to be provided to them by statute by July 1. It didn't materialize until, I believe, last week, with half the school year having already elapsed. We think that something should be done to extend the availability of those funds, and also in terms of the accountability. For the failing schools, not the persistently failing schools, but for the 124 failing schools, right now they receive no additional fiscal support. And so if they're going to be putting some additional finances, personnel, or resources into those schools, it's done on a rob Peter to pay Paul basis, which our members are telling us is occurring in some of these schools. If $75 million is appropriate for 20 persistently failing schools, then we think $75 million is appropriate for 124 failing schools. So why don't we do that? In terms of accountability, there is no silver bullet in turning around these schools. There's no quick fix, and there's certainly no free fix for these schools. The failing schools are given 2 years in order to post demonstrable improvement. And counterintuitively, The persistently failing schools that have been in that status for a decade or more are given half that much time, 1 year, to post demonstrable improvement. The public hearing that was led by Assemblywoman Nolan back in October, speaker after speaker, including researchers and practitioners, all said 1 year, 2 years is out of sync with what is really called for. What we're recommending is that at least 5 years be set for these schools in order to post demonstrable improvement. And one other thing, in terms of judging the efficacy of this program, it shouldn't be done with tunnel vision, looking only at failing schools, only at persistently failing schools, but it should be looking at the other schools within those school districts. Will we really consider it to be a success if a failing school achieves its targets and multiple non-failing schools fall into accountability status? For community schools, we support the $100 million being proposed by the governor to go into the 17 school districts, with $25 million to go into other high-need, low-performing schools. But we have two concerns about this. Number one, sustainability. What happens after 1 year or 2 years? Community schools aren't one time you establish it and run it forevermore for free. There are recurring costs associated with these schools, and something has to be put in place or they will evaporate. The other thing is community schools the right remedy for every one of these schools? Can't this money be somewhat fungible, as the $75 million was that was put in place for the last year for the persistently failing schools, so that they can do other things if that's appropriate for them as well? In terms of the pre-kindergarten programs, we feel it's premature to hoist the victory flag for 4-year-olds and start going down the road in terms of 3-year-olds. Currently, approximately 60% of 4-year-old children in New York State have pre-kindergarten available to them. There is an equity gap in this program, and we can put a number on it. It's 52%. In the testimony that you have, the last page, it shows that in New York City, 82% of 4-year-old children have access to pre-kindergarten programs, and on Long Island, it's 30%. This has to be done in a fair manner, in a manner, to Senator Kruger's point, that doesn't disadvantage schools that are already operating these programs. We oppose the establishment of the Empire State Pre-K Grant Board. This will add to state overhead. It'll add to bureaucracy. It will also politicize the program, and basically it will just fragment the program more than it already is, with 6 programs in operation right now. We recommend that the $22 million or more proposed by Governor Cuomo be redirected to 4-year-old pre-K programs. On a longer-term basis, we recommend also that these programs be amalgamated into a single cohesive pre-K system that's universally available to all students on an equal basis, with funding that's built in, not on a competitive basis, not having to run it through you on a year-by-year basis to get additional allocations, with a single set of standards and requirements. And lastly, in terms of the Commissioner's point around PD, yes, we do get calls at Saney's from failing schools and persistently failing schools saying they need professional development and technical assistance. We get calls around where can we get PD around the Common Core standards. And keep in mind now, based on what the Commissioner said, they'll be revising those standards. So more PD will be necessary. Pedagogy PD, and also professional development in line with the Common Core Task Force Recommendation 9. SED does not have the capacity to do this right now, and we support SED's recommendation that they receive additional support for this purpose. Thank you very much.